Shell Shock. Cowabunga, and welcome to episode number 10 of the Technodrome Tales, the official 1987 TMNT rewatch podcast of TechnodromeTales.com, KindleCast.ninja, and ActionFigureBarbecue.com. I am one of your hosts, returning for the first time in a long time, the real Brad Bell, and joining me tonight is a very special guest. This is Emily. Emily, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for filling in for Barbecue 17.
No problem. Thanks for having me back. I'm always down to talk about turtles.
Well, you were very entertaining on the last episode that I wasn't on. It's always fun.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's always fun to go back and listen to a podcast you weren't on, but it's a podcast you are on because you know the host pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
And I was really entertained. So, of course, you're welcome on anytime, Emily. And Emily is a good friend of my favorite Buckeye, the one, the only, Mr. Kendall Hallman, my favorite ukulele player as well. Kendall, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. When you asked me if I wanted a podcast tonight, I said, yeah, as long as you stand down, win.
All right, yeah. See,
I got the reference.
I'm so rusty. I did not get the reference.
To the episode that we watched.
Yeah. Okay. So it was that bad for you. That bad.
No. That's
all. There was a joke in it. Okay.
Yeah. It's after Baxter Stockman gets out of the garbage and he's like, "Can I come with you, Master Shredder?" And he's like, "Yeah, as long as you stand down, win," because he just came out of the garbage. And
of all of the groveling lines that Baxter had, that's the one I missed, and that's the one that Kendall chose to open up that show with.
Was the best line in the episode. There were some good lines in the episode, but that was definitely the best line.
This is pretty quality.
Speaking of the episode, we're going to get into that just in a minute, but I want to go over a little housekeeping here for the Technodrome Tales podcast. We've had good download numbers, we had fan interaction, and we've had a great rapport developed over the past 2 seasons of this show with our host, and we are by no means canceling the Technodrome Tales. However, this show will be going on hiatus until the first week of November, in which we plan to continue it. And the only reason it's doing that is that Jerry and I, who work on the Confirmed Epic podcast, the official podcast of the epicreview.com, thepicreview.com, are doing 2 bonus episodes a month of that pod. And that's going to take up a lot of what would have been, probably more than what would have been, our Technodrome Tales podcast time. And we just didn't think it would be fair to try to do this and that and kind of be on again, off again with this podcast. So my plan is to go on hiatus. I know everybody's real sad about that, but we will be back. Do not fear. But we are here tonight. And in fact, I think this is one of the better episodes that we're going to be talking about tonight. One of the better episodes of season 2, that is. And the episode I'm referring to is season 2, episode 4, The Mean Machines. It was written by Michael Reeves, originally aired October 22nd, 1988. Here is the synopsis of this episode of the Ninja Turtles. Shredder completes the Eye of Sarnoff, attaches it to his helmet, and Wait, I'm reading the synopsis. I'm reading the synopsis for episode 10. The next episode, which we will be talking about in November. My bad. I told y'all I'd be a little rusty tonight. Upon finding the second fragment on the Eye of Sarnoff, Shredder uses it as a power source for a supercomputer named Omnis, in the hopes of opening a portal to Dimension X. Meanwhile, the Turtles must deal with machines that suddenly go haywire all over the city. So let's go ahead and get into this, Emily and Kendall. Emily, you're our special guest tonight, so we'll start with you. What were your initial impressions of this episode?
Well, again, I was impressed that they are continuing a storyline. I did not expect that to happen so early on in the series. I thought that was kind of just a mini series, and then it went on to episode villain of the week thing. Almost, I guess not villain of the week because they pretty much only have Shredder and a few guest villains. Like I thought that's cool that they're continuing that. Another thing that caught my attention at the beginning is that the title card has a turtle with katanas, but orange headband.
That happens a lot in this show.
But it's like the title card.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Because a lot of times when I post these shows on YouTube, I'll insert that as one of the images as you're listening to the podcast, just so you can know who wrote the episode and the name of the actual episode, all those in the title. And it's a lot of Michelangelo holding swords, it appears.
Do you think that's because it was intended to be a red, because didn't they all have red bandanas initially?
Yeah, they did in the comics. They all had red bandanas, and I believe they still do on or at least they still. I'm not sure if there's any comics that are made that kind of follow the Mirage continuity anymore.
The IDW comic does something really interesting. It opens with an arc where Raph is missing, and to honor Raph, the other three turtles wear red bandanas until they find him.
That's pretty cool.
It's a cool little nod.
Nice. That sounds.
Go ahead, Kendall.
When you gave that synopsis, the first thing you said is that Shredder has the second piece. Is the second piece of the Eye of Zarnoth.
Says Shredder complete. The second fragment. That's right.
So he's got the second fragment, and that is correct that they're dealing with the second fragment because Donatello talks about the second fragment. So now if we spoilered, you accidentally said that he completes it next episode.
My bad.
So but that's okay because I want to talk about this continuity here. So the first episode he had the thing that shrinks the turtles. And then the second episode he misplaced that and then found another shard that made plant things. So this should be by that explanation, this should be the third piece, not the second piece, but they call it the second piece. Alternatively, what may have happened, because he had it and then he lost it. That was a plot point in the previous episode. Maybe he found the same one again, because they did seem like they were looking for the same one again.
I think that's what it was supposed to be, yeah.
But that one has the ability to shrink turtles and create a big scary plant.
It sounds like something they would do in Marvel's Secret Empire. They would just say, well, let's look for the same fragment again, but I won't get into that. I actually don't hate that series, by the way.
I really like it, but you should listen to, if you want to hear about my opinions on that, listen to the Polis podcast.
Which you can find at kindlecast.ninja.
Yep. But it's like they can't count how many pieces. I'm actually glad that you said that in the next episode he completes it, because I did notice that in these episodes it's like he uses the piece to do some crazy big thing, and then the turtles kind of overcome him, but they don't take the piece of the eye back. So it's like he could just in the next episode he could just send another big plant monster and the Omnis.
Please, God, not another plant monster, please.
With Omnis, I mean, Shredder just leaves the computer. It's presumably still in the computer. The turtles either took it or they left it in the computer.
Well, I mean, they must have.
Shredder does not have it.
If in the next episode Shredder completes it, that means he must actually have it. Then.
That's a Wikipedia synopsis, so take that for what it's worth. Usually they're pretty accurate.
So maybe they left it in the computer, and then Shredder came back and was like, "Oh, I bet they didn't." What they left it? Really? Why would they do that?
I don't know. It's like I really hesitate to give this show any credit for continuity because of this. Like, it just doesn't make sense the way that they've done it. But
I will say this: I know I spoiled the next episode, but our listeners and probably us will forget that little tidbit between now and November. We do this podcast again. Let's get into kind of how this episode starts out, and if you want to interject anything I miss, feel free, either one of y'all.
Yeah.
But Donnie is tracking this other shard of the Eye of Sarnath with a cell phone that when I saw it, the first thing that I thought was, this looks like Zach Morris's phone from Saved by the Bell. Now, I get that that's a generic phone of the time. And I also made the observation that when their disguise was, they looked like druids from Undertaker's WrestleMania entrance in WWE or WWE now. Kendall, what did you think of their disguises?
So two thoughts. First, honestly, their disguises are no worse than any of their other disguises. I think they look less like turtles than they normally do when they just wear trench coats and hats. So Michelangelo shouldn't get too much grief. Also, I think it was really nice of Michelangelo to give the Shredder a copy of the same disguise.
Yeah, that I don't understand why that happened.
It made no sense whatsoever. Emily, what do you think of this disguise?
It's pretty goofy. I mean, like it stands out too. Like Kendall does mention it. He's probably right in saying that they look the least like turtles than they normally do. Just by nature of the fake nose. That adds a lot to the whole like human disguise, because humans generally have noses.
Them going out in those robes, though, is a lot more eye-catching than.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. They should have worn the trench coats and the noses, and then that would have been the perfect disguise. And I just want to just scroll back a little bit to earlier in the episode. I always appreciate the scenes where like Splinter's training the turtles and kicking their butts in fighting, and I really like. That's how the episode starts, and I like Raphael being like, oh, you need more training and less pizza, and he's giving Michelangelo a hard time, even though they're all guilty of eating like way too much pizza all the time. But for some reason, he's singling out Michelangelo. I thought that was funny.
And they're all the same size. It's not like Mikey's like really overweight or something. This kind of reminds me of my brother and I when we were younger. He could eat anything he wanted and not gain a pound. I ate like one little Debbie and I grew a second chin.
I hate those people. They eat whatever they want.
Yeah, that's the way my brother was, and it was torture. But I mean, that's not the case here. They're all the same size, but that at least resonated with me a little bit. So our big bad here, well, you have Shredder, you have Baxter Stockman, as we've had the past couple episodes, but is Omnis the Sentient AI. So Emily, what do you think of Omnis?
I thought it was like interesting that this AI creature that is essentially what we would do later on in stories. We see this a lot where an AI takes control of the internet. It's controlling everything through the internet. This doesn't happen here because 88 there wasn't the internet. So it's just controlling everything through power lines, presumably.
That's crazy to think about. In 88, there wasn't the internet. Like,
yeah, right?
Won't. Continue, Emily. Sorry.
This story feels very weird not having the internet be a thing, but I guess it's just mumbo jumbo. It's weird that it controls a hose later, which doesn't have any electronic capabilities whatsoever. There's nothing electronic in there, so that didn't make much sense. And I liked how he's just like, I'm the best thing ever, and acting like he's so great, but he's still listening to Shredder. Like, he doesn't have his own. I expected it to like turn on Shredder at any point, and it ultimately doesn't. It just listens to Shredder for whatever reason.
Yeah, at first I thought he had a long end game, Omnis, and then I realized that you
were watching Ninja Turtles from the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. And then I thought back to that plant and that Hawaiian disguise from last episode. So, Kendall, what'd you think of our sentient AI here?
Well, I mean, my opinion of artificial intelligence is that I prefer the real thing.
Yeah,
that was also something Baxter Stockman said. Just in case you're thinking that.
Something that the writers didn't have much of, apparently.
Yeah. So I thought it was all right. It's kind of weird to me that this artificial intelligence, like this whole the whole thing with the crystals, like each crystal is making less sense.
Well, they're like infinity gems. Like this is the mind one, like Vision has, and they put it on a computer and it suddenly has an AI. I mean, it's not what it is. I'm like stretching and just making stuff up. But
that'd be much more interesting.
I guess if it powered and it, like if Shredder built a robot or Krang built a robot and they stuck the gem on it and then it caused the robot to have crazy powers, like that'd be one thing, but like this is like just it's like yes, part of the Eye of Zarnoth is an artificial intelligence.
They should put that in the android body Krang has. That would be cool. Yeah. Like that would have made sense. But
well, I like Krang's body though. You can't have two minds in the same body, right?
That would be a great internal dilemma though for the show to have. You know,
especially if like it started. I don't know. That's a whole other story.
If the android body,
I did like
sentient.
I did like the design of Omnis. I like the name. Omnis. I think it's
very ominous.
It's a good. It's like it's like omnipotent machine neural user system or something like that. Like it's some sort of whatchamacallit, but
was it interface system?
Interface system,
machine interface system. I think that was it. I could be.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Now you talk about the design of this character. Y'all are the Transformers podcasters. I know that y'all cover Beast Wars on y'all's podcast War and Beast. For whatever reason, maybe I'm completely off base because it's been a while since I watched G1 Transformers, probably about 10 years when I was in high school. It seemed like Omnis, his face kind of looked like a zoomed in shot of Megatron's face from G1 Transformers. Am I completely off basis with that?
I don't think you're completely off basis. It's like they both have very geometric faces, like hard angles, kind of like hard edges, that kind of deal. They both have that kind of face. It's not the exact same thing, but I can understand why it would remind you of Megatron for sure.
And probably just easy animation. As we go through this show, Emily and Kendall, especially at this stage with the Baxter Stockman character, I do not now remember him groveling and being this servant of Shredder and being submissive and whatnot. But he is he's like a slave to Shredder here. Calling him master, and he's almost like a petulant child, like jumping into his arms. Kendall, was that something that you remember being a characteristic of Baxter Stockman? Not be this groveling servant, but almost being like child-like?
I mean, I watched this show when I was 4 years old.
Okay,
and that was 25 years ago. I didn't remember that Baxter I didn't remember Baxter Stockman existing.
What about you, Emily?
I remember more than me and Ken are around the same age, but I remember more than Ken does because I remember Baxter Stockman existing definitely, and I remember what happens to Baxter Stockman later when what kind of transformation he goes through.
Hold on, let me read that episode synopsis real quick for that. I'm just joking. Go ahead.
Okay, but yeah, and like I do remember him being like a lackey, definitely. Like this is the typical cartoon villain lackey. And and say he's talking about being petulant. Like Shredder is equally that because he's like there's one point where he's asking, like, "Oh, are you sure? Like this is where it is or whatever?" And he's like, "Oh, my genius. I mean, your genius shouldn't be like no, like you're a genius. That's why you work for Shredder. Like don't sell yourself short there, buddy." And Shredder shouldn't get angry that he called himself a genius. Like you're using his intelligence as a tool. Like
I would
give
get
him at least that.
I would get angry if Baxter Stockman called himself a genius.
But he clearly is. Like, even though, like, he's a buffoon, he still does all this science stuff. You know what I mean? Like, he made the Mousers. I'm not sure what else he does in the series, but he made the computer that makes ominous.
He has some type of gun he makes. And I can't remember what maybe that gun just shoots like a laser beam and that's all it does. But
that's still pretty impressive. I mean, not for the show. But I mean, that's one thing about the show too, is that, I mean, we don't go over scene in this podcast, so I'll just bring it up now. But
Go
like,
ahead.
I like how like it's weird seeing a cartoon for kids where they have actual guns, because that's what happens is they stop these bank robbers and they start shooting guns with bullets at the turtles, and that doesn't happen. Like if you go to the 90s, everybody's got laser guns because you can't shoot guns with bullets on TV. Like it's weird going back to this time and seeing that on TV. Like even today, I think they talked about it on one of our sister podcasts on Audio Entropy, all on the Watchtower, about how like Marvel's Avengers show had to choose between either having Nazis or guns in their show. They couldn't have both. So they ended up choosing guns and just saying Hydra was World War II.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, those two things are, synonymous with one another. So that's kind of so crazy how those things take shape in cartoons. But speaking of weaponry, how about some heavy machinery, Emily and Kendall? Was this not the most visually interesting scene, as Emily has already mentioned, the Turtles battle household appliances?
I thought it was pretty okay for an action. I mean, it was a lot more interesting than anything happened in the last episode that I watched. I mean,
that's not saying much, but I completely agree with you.
The heavy machinery is like, it's like a threat. It's a real threat that could hurt them, and they take care of it in like interesting ways. Like I saw in your notes that you described Leo, like, what are you talking about, Leo? But he kind of means like he uses the wrecking ball to like total one of the other heavy machine. To explain the scene a bit to the listeners, this thing controls machinery, and they go to a construction yard, and a bunch of construction vehicles start attacking them, and they have to fight it off. And then, he uses the wrecking ball to take out another one. He doesn't make them turn on each other, but he like redirects their attacks to hit each other. Is kind of how they come up with all these interesting ways to take out these things that are much more powerful than they are. It's no different than them fighting giant robots, really. It's just that these giant robots are vehicles that we see every day. And I do think it's pretty ridiculous what Mikey does to take out his one, where he just finds a box of TNT. I don't know where he got that, and just like pops it down.
And he sits on it, and they're like, "No, get up!" He's
like, "No, guys, I got this." And he's got it.
So I'll say, fighting the construction vehicles, this is actually something that I probably would have really appreciated as a small child.
Yeah.
Because half of my toys were like Tonka trucks.
Oh,
so
yeah,
absolutely. A lot of times the vehicles that Batman would pilot, like, Batman would pilot a dump truck, and Joker would have a mixing thing. And they'd be, and I had.
Did you have metal ones, by the way?
Yes,
I
some
did.
were metal and some were plastic.
And if you threw those,
metal ones,
because we would throw them at each other, my brother and I. That shit would hurt.
Well, yeah, it's metal.
Yeah, but being able to kind of reenact this battle would have been really cool with what I had, because like those definitely lined up with the Tonka trucks.
That's a good
that I
point.
had, so.
It's not too late, Kendall. You can recreate that if you can find this old Tonka truck.
I have no desire to do that. I don't know.
eBay's calling, my friend.
No. There's other things in line and ahead of them. I mean, I bought. It's no secret. I bought the head piece of an Optimus Primal to attach to my existing Optimus Primal on eBay, and spent money on it.
I saw that in the Slack.
But it was pretty exciting. But yeah, I don't have that kind of nostalgia for Tonka trucks, unfortunately. My nostalgia starts when I was about 8 or 9. Anything before that, just
Well, there's some lead-based paint Tonka trucks calling your name right now. A whole lot of them.
Pretty sure we're using lead-based paint.
I know.
There's a pawn store on downtown where I live, and I passed by, and it's got a Tonka truck in there that you could buy, but it's also rusty, like it's covered in rust. So I don't know if anyone would want to be playing with that, but it might make an interesting piece to have. Because I don't think like I said, they don't make those anymore, the metal ones, for good reason. They're dangerous. But yeah.
Hit your brother with them.
Those Canadians, they'll knock each other's teeth out in a hockey game. But when it comes to metal Tonka trucks, they're just not going to have it. Speaking of vehicles, why does April call her news van a mobile unit?
I did catch that. Yeah, that didn't.
Yeah, and
it's mobile and it's a unit, I guess.
Here's why this resonated with me. Two things. I remember it was one of the rarest TMNT toys. It was basically a repaint of the original Ninja Turtles van. They called it was the Channel 6 news van. I never saw it in person. Diehard Turtles collectors. This is one of the grail pieces with them, along with like Scratch the Cat. Also, I'm a public school teacher, and I taught in what was a mobile unit, essentially a trailer, for 4 years. And I actually have a classroom now, but I love my mobile unit. I thought that was the only other time I heard something called a mobile unit is at work. Yeah.
We actually call them portables here. I don't know why, but yeah, I remember the grade 6 classroom in elementary school wasn't the portable, but it was the same kind of deal. Yeah.
You control your own heat and air in those things. That is nice. Let me tell you.
So the fact that they called it a mobile unit didn't bother me as much as I believe it's Donatello who says, "We'll worry about that later." And I heard him say that. I was like, "No, you won't. You'll never address this again." They never do. They specifically say they're going to follow up, and they never follow up.
That's what I love about this show so much, and hate about it at the same time. Now, I'm sitting here watching this show, and I know Jerry's been in particular interested in what's going on at Channel 6 News. We've had discussions about Thompson and his mistress and whatnot.
Did Thompson's voice actor change? I don't remember him sounding like that from like the miniseries, but I haven't seen the miniseries in a long time. I just when he was talking, I'm like, this doesn't sound like my childhood. Did they change his voice actor?
I didn't really notice it.
I could be completely wrong, but it's just a feeling I got.
Notice a change in voice acting with Thompson?
I was eating pizza during that scene.
All right, so
should.
That's fine. As you watching a Ninja Turtles show, why not? But I'm sitting here thinking, I wonder if there was like a Parks and Rec or an Office version of this Channel 6 news team. Would that be more interesting than the Ninja Turtles show?
I'd watch it. It sounds great.
I would too.
There'd be like scenes of like Vern trying to get a scoop, and then like April would just rush in, and a bunch of crazy stuff would be happening behind her, and she'd be like, "Oh, Vern, what are you doing here?" And like she'd be, and then she'd run away and go to a next scene, and we just wouldn't know. We wouldn't really know what's going on with her ever. She would just be doing random turtle stuff, and we'd be following Vern while he tries to get his own story. I mean, that sounds great.
I think you should pitch that to Paramount, Emily.
There was a show on. I believe it was NBC this year that got canceled called Powerless, and that was kind of the premise.
I watched that show, and you're talking to a guy right here that stayed with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 3.5 seasons, and Powerless was. I love Danny Pudi, love that guy. I'm a huge Community fan. We talk about that show a lot on our other podcast, but did either one of y'all watch Powerless? Because I couldn't do it.
I did not.
I thought it was great. I enjoyed it. I mean, it really was like what you're calling for. Like the first couple episodes were rough, and I think it was the kind of show that would have been like season 3 would have been the season everybody's like, this show finally got good. So it's really sucks that it didn't get that opportunity, but it definitely had its moments, and it definitely was like, there's a superhero fight going on outside. Now we can't go on our trip because we're stuck in lockdown. Well, because there's poison, because the supervillain there's a poisonous gas that goes all that's infiltrated the whole world or the whole city or whatever. And like, the first episode, she gets saved by a superhero and she's like, oh, I got saved. And everybody's like, yeah, so why are you late? What's your excuse?
It's Vanessa. It's Vanessa Hudgens for the girl from High School Musical. At least that's what I knew her from best.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was really solid.
Sounds like it could have been
just
in your description.
Yeah, I mean, and it was, and the style of humor was kind of a joyful, silly style of humor, as opposed to like, let's make fun of people, like the sort of cynical,
not too raunchy either.
Yeah, not raunch. Yeah, not toilet humor. Like, you could, I don't have a family, but I could watch it with my family if I wanted to.
I don't have a family.
Kendall, you're
what
married.
do you consider your wife? Like,
I mean,
oh, what the hell, man?
I don't have. I guess I have a wife. I did watch it with my wife.
Don't you have a cat as well?
Yes. And I
okay.
did watch it with
in-laws. Like, that's all family. I don't know. Like, dude.
Family. You call it family.
Well, I don't have children, but if I had children, like if I kidnapped someone's children,
I know what you meant. It just sounded really bad.
Yeah. Anyway, the point is that's a lot of people do call for the Office style show of the superhero world, and that's what that was.
Yeah, but I wanted to see it with Vern and
you want to see it
Thompson.
with these characters,
with these exact characters,
okay.
which would never happen, obviously. But hey, 87 TMNT rewatch podcast, so we can dream. I dreamed of this podcast, and it happened. So, I really, when Omnis says I need more power, I just pictured him being summoned by Tim the Toolman Taylor. And Tim go, oh. I had a roommate in college, just got married, Philip Stapp. So congratulations to him and his lovely bride, Clara. But he was a huge Home Improvement fan, like still to this day. Had the box set that was the Toolbox on DVD, and he watched them on loop in college when he wasn't in class. And so that's a show that it aged fairly well, I think. And now we're going to introduce Tool Time to a podcast, which is a home. I'm just joking, guys.
I know.
All right. I guess I'm the only Home Improvement fan.
I'm sorry. I haven't seen that since I don't remember anything from my childhood. From that show, from my childhood. I shouldn't say anything from my childhood. I remember things from my childhood. I'm tired. So we had the Channel 6 news stuff. And you have in your notes too that they were fighting cleaning supplies, which is it's not as exciting as so much as
they wiped the floor with that floor wiper.
Oh, I wish they still had the sound effects on this thing. They took those off, but you are on fire tonight, Kendall. It is fury and fire coming from the Buckeye State.
I was tired, but I did watch the episode twice, so I remember that there were lines in it.
I watched it 1.5 times. I tried to watch it earlier, and I didn't really get through it. And then I watched the rest of it like right before the podcast kind of thing.
Yeah, I watched it once yesterday when I was going through and doing our show prep. But I don't think it was really interesting to see them fight heavy machinery or cleaning supplies. But this goes back to a point Emily made earlier in the podcast, talking about how they really only fight Shredder. Now, in later seasons, the Triceratons come in. But, I mean, it's not like we're kind of in this weird phase before we get to the Rat King and Metalhead and and some of these other and Leatherhead.
That's what it is. Yeah.
If Leatherface showed up, that would get dark really quick.
Yeah, I couldn't remember his name exactly. Leatherhead. And interesting is that Leatherhead was a good guy in the comic, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, Mondo Gecko's another one that shows.
I like Mondo Gecko a lot. Do you guys remember the Archie comics, like Turtles comics?
I had a few, but I don't vividly remember them.
They had like a spin-off series called Mutanimals, which was like a team consisting of Mondo Gecko and like a bunch of the other like good mutants they saw throughout the series.
IDW has that as well, a modern take on that.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah, check it out on Amazon.
Is it called Mutanimals? Or is it called else?
That's what it's called. I think there's 2 volumes of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, and Casey Jones hasn't shown up yet. I mean, there are good characters coming to this show. We're just right on the cusp of that.
Yeah, we still haven't. You're right. We still haven't seen Casey Jones. He's
only in one episode of his whole series.
Oh, really?
Oh,
yeah. You guys
are you
know
serious?
That? Yeah, he's in one episode.
I thought he showed up more than one episode.
I'm pretty sure it's one episode. I remember watching Cinemassacres like talk about the Turtle series and being like, why is Casey Jones only in one episode of his show? He's an important character in the comics and in the movie, and yeah. That's actually another thing is that not only do we not have any major villains, we don't even have the foot soldiers right now. Like Shredder brings up like my army's in Dimension X, and I noticed that. I'm like, right, you're right. I haven't seen the foot soldiers since I started watching this, you guys. In the episodes that I've seen.
Season 2, they haven't been in it unless it's a flash to Dimension X or something.
And that's why Shredder has to like use his cleaning supply robots because he doesn't have his foot soldiers.
Yeah. Because
no Bebop or Rocksteady hardly either.
We've moved past it in the episode.
Sure.
There was a parking attendant robot.
Yes. Was it maid or something? Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Or a meter maid. What? What? How? There was no. Well, it's just randomly.
Earlier in the episode, the power dude is like Omnis or whatever their name is like. Oh, I'm going to take control of a bunch of robots, and there just happens to be a robot something next to the building they're in, and a bunch of robots escape.
It was the 80s, man. There were robots everywhere.
Yeah, so that. So and then they kind of go like on a rampage, I guess, and that was one of them, and that's the only thing that happened with that plot line of these robots because they ran into a meter maid. And there's another thing because we're going over this. There's a part where they're like going through the destroyed part of the city where these robots rampage. I guess that happened too. There's a part and there's like a power line hanging, and Leonardo cuts the power line with his metal sword. It's a live wire.
It's Valerian steel. Get it right, okay?
I thought it was Donatello batted it away with his staff.
No. Leonardo cuts a live wire in half, and it's fine. He's just okay. He doesn't get shocked or anything.
Either way, not recommended.
No, not at all.
Don't bat or cut at a live power.
At least with the wood, it's not going to conduct electricity, but it's a steel sword, and he's just like, yeah, no biggie.
Wood conducts some electricity. It's not like rubber. It's not going to prevent the electricity from.
Listen, all I know is that in video games, wood beats electricity.
That's all you need to know about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, yeah. Okay, so I just rewatched the scene. Donnie moves it, and then Leo cuts it, and you can see sparks come out of it.
Mm-hmm. What they taught me in Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts was that if you're touching, the reason that birds can sit on power lines is that they're just touching the power line. But if you touch the pole and the power line, or if you touch the two power lines, then you'll get electrocuted.
Man, I remember Boy Scouts.
Right. Yes, which is also that's also a thing.
I signed up for the Boy Scouts before Donald Trump gave that big speech and really endorsed them. I signed up for the Boy Scouts because I wanted all the cool stuff at the Boy Scout store. like that little these I don't know, it was some kind of flint and something you could start like a fire with that would do sparks. And yeah, I did Boy Scouts for like 2 weeks, and my parents wasted a lot of money on that stuff. But that's what I remember about the Boy Scouts. Just some fun stuff from this episode that I noticed. The voice actor of, I believe, Rocksteady is the voice actor of the cab driver.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny too. It's like I didn't expect to see Shredder in a robe call for a cab today.
Yeah. They didn't have Uber, unfortunately, back then, but yeah, cab rides are so much. You don't really realize how much more cab rides cost until you call Uber, and the ride that would have took $15 takes $6 now. Also, Krang's laugh is like a smoker's laugh to me in this episode. Oh man, I had a coworker, God rest his soul, Larry Greer, when I worked at Radio Shack, and he was a character. We've talked about him on our other podcast a lot, and that was his laugh right there. I don't know if Krang's was quite that bad.
Yeah,
Something was off about that laugh to me in this episode. But that's about all I have for this. I do want to mention, and I know this is probably something that Jerry Barbecue 17 would have brought up if he were here. The turtle suction climbers.
those are good.
First time we see these, and I believe, unlike Casey Jones, they do pop up in more than this episode. So that was cool to see. I remember liking those as a kid. What about you guys?
I mean, I don't remember that being a thing that they used all the time. I mean, that's cool. Did they have a toy for it?
No, they never had a toy for it, as far as I know now.
That's probably good because kids probably would have tried to use it to climb things then.
Well, I remember taking the bottom off of our plunger at home, which is really nasty now that I'm thinking about it, and trying to recreate these to no success whatsoever. Speaking of success, unless you guys got anything to say, we'll go ahead and wrap this episode up and get into pizza time.
Let me just mention one other plot point that doesn't make any sense.
Go ahead.
So the tracking device for the jewel thing at one point early in the episode, because it's alien technology, takes over the turtle.
That was
band.
such a weird part. I'm like, I earlier, that's when I stopped watching, is I'm like, I didn't understand that scene at all. I must be too tired. Yeah, and I watched it again. I still don't understand that scene.
The reason that scene's there is to set up for later in the episode when Omnis takes over their van, and they use it to short out the van. And
okay,
because apparently, because that makes sense, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know.
Speaking of making sense, we forgot to get to how they solved the crisis of Omnis, which is to just unplug him from the wall.
Well, that was one thing I wanted to talk about, is that I did like how April did some things this episode. Like, she stops the fire hose that, after Donatello, distracts it for some reason, that distracts it, because even though they were already in front of it, him going out and be like, hey, fire hose, makes it like make a beeline for him, and April comes up and turns it off. And then April's the one that defeats Omnis. She unplugs him.
Which is the resolution for every internet help center. That just unplug it and plug it back in. I've done that before I called you. Try it one more time. All right. Pizza time. Kendall, I know this is something that we love to mention here on the Technodrome Tales podcast. I remember one scene of them eating pizza, but nothing specific. Am I wrong?
Yeah. They just the only thing about that scene, they didn't say specifically, but they did all throw their pizza at Michelangelo. Like, a lot of pizza got thrown at him, and it didn't look like there was a lot of pizza to begin with.
They were fat shaming him, even though he's not fat. They're just cruel.
So I guess
they threw pizza at him because he showed up for a robot, and they're like, "Ah, you guy, we just dealt with robots. We're so angry."
That'd have been better served when he showed up in the hula dress, even though that resolved the situation in the last episode. I hated that episode. So, in comparison,
luckily you weren't on it.
but I did watch it.
Yeah.
I made show notes and whatnot. But I think this was a lot better than last episode. I don't know what that says. On a scale of 1 to 5, Emily, since you're our guest tonight, what would you rate this episode? You can do halves.
Okay, I think I'd give it like a 3.5. Not quite like, a 4 or a 5, which are like the really good episodes of 4s and 5s. I would say a lot of the miniseries episodes from season 1 are like 500s.
You'd be surprised.
I mean, I've watched it. I've watched it nowadays, and I still, I don't know, I still like that miniseries a lot. But this I'd probably give it a 3.5. Saying it's pretty decent. It doesn't it's not offensive in any way. It doesn't make me angry like the last one, or like just bored. So and I thought it had some decent action scenes in it. There's a lot of animation mistakes in this one. Like there's a part where Donatello is looking at the scanner, and he's lowering it. And then the turtles, normally most animation would have him lower it and slowly reveal the turtles, but he lowers it and then they pop onto the frame. Like it's not the gradual thing. He lowers it and they're just there. And there's a lot of instances of like the bandanas being colored in green in like the skin tone. And like you guys mentioned that every episode, I guess, as it happens every episode where turtles will talk that aren't the turtle color. And so this one had a lot of little mistakes like that, but I guess that's kind of par for the course. So
wait, that wasn't the evil green turtle? Okay, I was way off.
Flash? No, it wasn't Flash.
my assumption.
Flash is a black bandana, doesn't he?
I was just making a Green Ranger reference there. I wasn't talking about Slash though. There's another good villain that the turtles face.
I love Slash.
No, that's
the
great. The green turtle is Van Gogh.
Okay,
got you.
I'll take your word.
He's also a famous painter.
Oh,
that's a funny joke.
Okay. Yeah. What about it's no Venus, but we'll move on.
Yeah.
Kendall, what would you rate this one, my friend?
So I'm gonna give this 3 turtles. I'm gonna give it Leonardo, Raphael, and Donatello.
So 3 out of 5 for Mean Machines, the Mean Machines. As for me, I'm gonna give this a solid good, a 3. I enjoyed it, didn't dislike it. I mean, was it a perfect episode? No, it doesn't live up to the miniseries episodes, as Emily was alluding to, but very entertaining compared to last episode. So I give this a solid 3 or a good on the confirmed epic rating scale. And that's all I have for tonight, unless either one of you do. We'll go ahead and close out this episode. Emily, where can people find more of you on the internet?
Well, you can find me on Audio Entropy, on Warren Beast with Kendall. I also am going to be on a podcast that hasn't released there yet called Home for Infinite Losers, which is a Dragon Ball Z rewatch podcast I'm doing with Luke and Mike from that network. And I have another personal podcast coming out called In Pursuit of Passion, where I interview people about things that they're passionate about. It could be literally anything, as long as they have passion about it, because I just love talking to people about stuff they like. And then you can catch my artwork at dangershare.tumblr.com, on my Twitter at This Is Emerald, and This Is Emerald is my Instagram and YouTube.
When is that Pursuit of Passion podcast debuting?
Probably next month, because I want to record 5 episodes of it before I release it, and I've only gotten 1 so far, and episode 0. So yeah,
That's cool. You can interview us about our passion for the Ninja Turtles if
you guys have an entire podcast for that.
It would be.
I wouldn't mind interviewing Jerry about his love of toy collecting. Or you?
Yeah,
that'd be interesting.
Jerry for toys and me for posters, or any of us.
For high-end.
Great.
Yeah, high-end poster.
Apparently, I'm passionate about high-end posters too.
Yeah, that's how I met Kendall. I don't know if you knew that. the first episode.
I get that joke. No, I've listened.
Okay. There, which I'm not saying I'm not, but I was like, I'm sure I met you on Mondo Trader, and it was Teenagers for Attitude, and you were on that podcast not too long ago, right, Kendall?
Yeah, and Emily's been on like about 30 or 40 of those episodes.
Really?
I've been on that many, but I've been on like 3 or 4 in the last couple months.
Emily, what was the last one you were on for Teenagers with Attitude?
The one that's the newest one, actually, episode 102 is I'm on there.
I have to check that out then, because I enjoy that podcast. I'm a big Power Rangers fan.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, they do good work. They're highly entertaining.
I am a fan,
but they go very in depth with their coverage.
Yes, they do.
What about you, Kendall? Where can people find more of you?
You can find everything I do at kendallcast.ninja. I've been a little bit lacking in updates on that recently because of I've been having to work at my job. So I'm needing to figure out a different time that I can update it. But it's just like the one I do with Emily Beast, Warren Beast, whatever it's called.
Whatever it's called.
And Polist is a comic book podcast, and the Katarn Collection is a Star Wars podcast with the video games. We've got a very important episode coming up in a little over a week where we're going to be reviewing the first 2 Battlefront games. I played the first one and I didn't like it, so it's going to be a fun podcast.
You not liking something? I just can't imagine that.
I try to be so positive on this podcast.
No, you're very positive, because I do listen to I don't listen to every episode of War and Beast, but I do drop in from time to time, kind of like that with Teenagers with that as well. And I appreciate your positivity on here, Kendall. We need that. As for me, you can find me
you play a role
at the Epic Review, thepicreview.com, Geeks Worldwide, dgww.com. This podcast is a proud presentation of the Geeks Worldwide Radio Network, and on Twitter at The Real Brad Bell, DREEL Brad Bell. As for the Technodrome Tales, we will be returning on November 7th. That is my plan. 2017, and that is election day. Unfortunately, it's not a presidential election, but it is election day here in America. So stay tuned.
That's the day after my 30th birthday.
Happy birthday. Well, hopefully you'll be in a condition to come on here, but happy 30th birthday. But I'm sure I'll wish it to you via social media at least. Emily, I want to thank you again for coming on. You're welcome on anytime.
Thank you very much.
And Kendall, thank you, my friend from the Buckeye State, hopping on here. You've been on every episode, I believe. So
I have, yes.
We greatly appreciate it. Jerry Barbecue 17 Reed couldn't join us. He actually had a friend come in from out of town, which was very good. He hadn't seen this friend in a while, but it was unexpected. He was planning on being on this podcast, but he sends his best wishes. And for the Technodrome Tales podcast, Kendall, take us out of here, my friend.
Ninja, vanish.
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are owned by Paramount Pictures, which is a subsidiary of Viacom Entertainment. Our theme song is by the DJ Figure. That is used for our intro and our outro. All of our art, cover art, and album art is provided to us with the permission of Dasha Ko, who you can find on DeviantArt. Thank you for listening.
This has been a production of the GWW Radio Network. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Also, check out Geeks Worldwide at thegww.com for all the latest news, reviews, and opinions on video games, comics, movies, TV, cosplay, and more. Geeks Assemble!